Did you ever imagine yourself being involved, not just this field, but at the level that you are involved in it, to have spent a lifetime in this work?
That wasn't my plan.
So what was your plan?
I wanted to be a therapist and I wanted to work with kids. And I had a passing interest in child abuse when I was in graduate school. It seemed it was a new idea. People hadn't heard of it before, which was so bizarre now to think about it. When I started to work at the Mental Health Center in Overland Park, Kansas, I went to a training about child sexual abuse and incest. I'd never been to a training before. My first thought on that is, you can do something about that? I mean, to me, it was just such a horrible thing we couldn't think about it. 10 minutes into that lecture, 10 minutes, it was a day-long training, I realized that a child I'd been working with for a couple of years when I was in graduate school, obviously, that's what had been going on. And I had been supervised by every faculty member with that case, and no one ever suggested that that might be the issue. And that hit me so hard, I got really involved in working with the part of the program that worked with sexual abuse. And I got some really good training. So then when I moved to Arkansas and found that people didn't know much about it, it sort of gave me a role. I knew I had something to share that other people needed.
Back in the early 90s when she joined the family treatment program, there really weren't a lot of people in Arkansas that would have been devoting themselves exclusively to child sexual abuse. And she was in private practice, coming to the family treatment program with an expertise in child sexual abuse. And I found that just phenomenal that somebody in private practice had dedicated their life already to working with child sexual abuse and then was going to be even further involved pretty exclusively in sexual abuse at the family treatment program.
She's been around longer than I have, which is a feat in itself. And she has been viable the whole time. She's not flamboyant and she's not out there in the way that some are. She's just very measured and very confident. And because of that competency and that engagement, I think it's had a significant impact on those of us who work with her on a regular basis. I don't interact with her daily, but very often, and those times that I do, I always feel a sense of comfort when I know she's going to be a part of the process.
What have you seen change? What's something you're most proud of in the work that you've been able to do that's been a part of that change?
Well, I moved here in the 80s, and I went around getting familiar with the agencies that were available. I had worked in the Kansas City area at a community mental health center that was really innovative in dealing with incest. So I had training in working with children and families dealing with sexual abuse. So I was going to these agencies, and I sat down with the administrator, and I asked him, I said, how do you manage your sexual abuse cases? And, you know, this was an agency that you would expect 90% of the kids in the program were sexually abused. And he said, we had a kid like that once. There was no knowledge, none. And now you look around and everybody's got training. Everybody knows about trauma. Everybody understands about sexual abuse. So we've had a lot of progress, even though we all still complain that it can be better, and it can be better. We have made enormous strides.
I'd have to say collaboration is Karen's middle name. She is so good at bringing everybody into a situation that needs to be brought into a situation. She works very, very hard at forging relationships with the people that need to be at the table for whatever that situation might be.
A lot of, I think, what you can do in life does often depend upon the relationships that you can build with other individuals. As a judge, I have no magical powers. I can say you need to get this service or that service, but I have to depend upon people like Dr. Worley and other individuals in order to accomplish my purpose in life, which is to improve the outcomes and conditions for children and families. So I have to depend upon people like Dr. Worley, and it's nice when you can actually know them, and I just think you get more done when you are able to create bridges between individuals and have good relationships with folks.
What's something you're particularly proud of of yourself in a way that you've been involved in something?
Well, I'm really happy with the family treatment program. I'm really proud of the staff that we have and the work that they do, not just with victims, but with parents of victims and with youth who've offended and the parents of youth who've offended, and working with those groups together, because often they're in the same family, and to help the whole family heal. I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud of the way we can work with other agencies in making that happen.
Not every therapist is the appropriate therapist for every child. And I had children, that were not making any kind of progress with other therapists, and Karen gets with them and starts working with them. And let me tell you, it takes a long time, and she has the patience to do that, especially with small children that have been severely sexually abused. And so she has that patience just to wait until they're ready to start working on their issues, and then she has that skill to work with them and help them resolve those things.
She is dependable and is functional in the best of times and the worst of times. She can have adequate resources and the job gets done well, or she can have minimal resources and the job gets done well. So I think it's just her ability to hang in and do what needs to be done.
What has sustained you through some of those struggles to be so committed to this work?
Well, one of the things was cancer. And that's a tough one. And the people that I collaborated with, they sustained me. And so it was, the collaboration continued. It was a real personal thing. The support I felt from all the people I had been working with all along. And, family treatment program, that was my family, that in many ways, not just my children, who also were very supportive, and of course they were worried and that, but all the people I'd been working with all along stepped up and told their stories and offered to help. My friend Margie, I didn't know her very well. She heard I'd had cancer. She showed up at my front door with her scheduling book, and she said, "Okay, when is your chemo? I'm going to give you a ride." And she took me to everyone, except for maybe a couple she had to be in court, because she was an attorney ad litem, and made sure that there was someone else to take me. Now, how can you not continue when you're getting that level of support?
She was always putting her needs kind of on the back burner and really working on what was needed for the families that she served. And she's had some difficult health circumstances, difficult personal adversities, but she has carried through work seamlessly throughout all of that and really not skipping a beat. You can tell she loves coming to work. She loves making an impact on the children and families of Arkansas. And so, in spite of whatever else might be going on in her life, she clearly says, I can still make a difference here in my employment with what I'm doing here in my work at the family treatment program.
We're kind of all in the business of helping people. But sometimes life happens to us too, and sometimes we run into headwinds. We run into a rocky road, and certainly Karen has had some issues that have been thrown her way. She was able to handle the things that life threw her way, and then she came back with a smile on her face. She never seemed to have lost her sense of dedication to working with children and families. In my view, she has shown dedication to the cause of helping children and families. She has remained steadfast and committed, and she's been very strong in her efforts. So I just have the greatest admiration for Dr. Worley and the work that she's done.
So many folks that were connected in the early years of your work have moved on, aren't around anymore, for whatever reason. Who were the ones that inspired you the most?
One of them was Dr. Jones. He was my boss, my first boss here. You could not have a kinder and more positive and more knowledgeable person to guide you. And he was so supportive and such a cheerleader and so excited about every new thing I tried. Who could ask for more? And of course, my family treatment program family, that is my family. All of them, every single one of them. We do intense work, and we have to learn to get along together to be able to do it. There were many attorneys ad litem that just made huge differences with the kids, and I learned to work with them and make them part of the team for the child, which was a new concept for a psychologist back in those days. And that was really exciting to realize that there was a type of advocacy that went on for the children. And now we have advocates. You know, we have advocates in the Advocacy Center. Oh my gosh, what a resource. It is so exciting. I never imagined these riches. I worked for them, I knew they'd be a good thing, but I never imagined how well they would work.
Karenworley is an absolute perfect selection for the Percy Malone Award. What makes her most deserving of this is just her absolutely passionate dedication, passionate commitment to child sexual abuse and working with all aspects of child sexual abuse.
Being honored by something like that, how does that strike you originally? And I mean, as you've had a chance to sit with it for a while.
I have admired the recipients, you know, Dr. Jerry Jones, Dr. Karen Forrest, Carolyn Pollan, Lisa McGee. All of these are people that I have just admired over the years and just loved working with. And to just be included in that has just been a huge honor and just really makes me feel good.
She has been an integral part of the things that Senator Malone wanted to accomplish in terms of being part of the task force, being part of the service community, being there to advise the commission and Senator Malone. I think she richly deserves this recognition.
Everything she does is involved with child sexual abuse in Arkansas, and I know that her work has probably touched at this point thousands of kids and families who have benefited from the work and the champion work that she has been, the advocate that she's been for kids and families who are victims of sexual abuse.
Unlike many therapists who never wanted to come to court, Karen was always willing to come to court and testify when it was in the best interest of the child for the court to know what was going on.
If you want to recognize someone who has made an outstanding contribution to children and families, and particularly in the area of sexual abuse treatment or sexual victimization, I just can't think of a more worthy candidate to be recognized.
What are your hopes for the future?
Well, I want to continue to do what we're doing. I don't want to lose that. There's still many children that aren't being reached. I would like to see more integration of treatment for youth with sexual behavior problems or children with sexual behavior problems. We have that resource at family treatment. Most areas of the state do not have that, and to be able to integrate that for the families that are dealing with their child's victimization, but also with their child's offending. That is so painful. And to be able to address that in a system-wide, consistent way would be the next step. And I'm seeing the advocacy centers looking at that.
Do you plan on being a part of that next step too?
You know it. Of course I will.